Hey, I'm Colin,
And I'm Chris.
and this is episode 5 of You Enjoy Ourselves.
Right on. It's Colin's turn to bring a jam to the table. I'm very much looking forward to the big reveal here. So, what do you got for us today, Colin?
I have got to get rid of this background so you can see it. Blur my background just a second. None. We've got Julius Star Lake, I think it was 1998. And you
Yeah.
were telling me beforehand that you have this DVD, or you just really like this DVD when you watched it.
My brother-in-law has it, and I borrowed it and did not want to give it back. Shout out Trevor. It's really good. It's
Nice.
one of those like just all the way through high energy shows, and I think I did when the circus comes from this show on the channel way back. So yeah, love this show. Julius is always high energy. Very cool. Looking forward to this.
So yeah, let me do a screen share here, and we will just listen to the clip. There's three kind of hey Trey, hold on. There's three kinds of three licks basically that I want to discuss. Such a great shot of Trey there. So let's just listen, I guess. Back up the pre-roll just a little bit so you can hear the end of that last chorus. That's enough. That's even past what I want to do because it's a little bit long.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do all of that at all. There's going to be kind of the beginning, the second lick, because let me take off the screenshot. The main lesson I wanted to bring to the table today was, um, and we talked about this when I hosted in your class. What a guest teached in your class that one day about not sleeping on the blues. Sometimes when we advance as players, we kind of maybe we get into Zappa or Fish or some jazz or classical or some more complex things, and we kind of sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, and I think you said you were maybe a little bit, or I don't want to speak for you, but uh, about kind of forgetting about our roots with the blues and how
Yeah.
important it is. So that's what I wanted to get into today. Was just like he's doing some real what I call easy blues licks. Obviously, this is a cooking tempo. So, and I transcribed this last night. These licks at like 50 and 75% speed because I was like, yeah, I got to get this done first of all because it's easier to transcribe slow. But it'll be cool. I am gonna play it, at a slower tempo too, so we can um, see a couple of cool finger position changes he's doing that are to me not um, totally ergonomic, but you can tell where his brain was moving, which is pretty cool. Um,
Sweet.
and yeah, anything jump out to you in that little bit?
I was so enamored with everything. I wasn't like really analyzing it, but I just love it. So no, I don't have anything yet, but I love the angle you're taking here. I think that a song like this, obviously like a funky bitch, stuff like that is a great way for us, and many other ones that Trio really lean into that more kind of bluesy sound. I think that it's a great point, man. Like, don't sleep on the blues. There's so much that we can get out of it. And anyway, no, take it away, man. I'm looking forward to the licks that you transcribed and
All
digging
right.
in.
Um, yeah, and I think I was somewhat guilty of that in the last video, which hasn't aired yet, but will next Monday. Um, with with Guy OT, you asked me anything that jumped out. It's like, yeah, there's some stuff in there, but I was watching the video. So,
I know you get kind of like I get
well,
entranced. I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
I can't
exactly.
even pay attention.
We'll probably get better at that as it goes on. Episode 5, man. Everybody who's watching, thanks for being here again. It is I think
Yeah,
5 weeks. It's just how did time flies, right?
sure does.
Okay, so let's back up. It's about 3, and let me get a couple of things. Oh, we didn't want to reveal that yet. This is what we wanted to show. This is lick 1. It's about 3:53, and might have to like do some scrolling down to fit it all in the shot. Actually, that's it. So let's go back. Let's listen again. 3:53. That's it. That's lick 1. Let's listen to it slower.
Oh, I do have it. I like do it again, but there was something that jumped out to me for sure that I want to hit on.
You
But
want to hear it again?
no, sure. Were you gonna play that again slower?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yeah, I love it.
Let's go. Let's start at 75.
Cool.
50 is kind of shocking to some of us at first.
Oh, love that.
What jumped out? I'm curious what you were. What came
Okay,
up
what
with.
jumped out to me is that the way it launches in to the beginning of that with that I was calling it like the Stevie Ray Vaughan
Yeah.
lick. It's like a variant of that, and you were calling it the Jimmy lick, which I think is probably more appropriate. It launches into that, and my ears start to get. I think I'm gonna hear like a heavy minor pentatonic angle, and then in like measure 3 or whatever, I can't quite remember, like it was is the last measure on the top line. Okay, measure 4, I was close. Measure 4, that slide from 8th fret to 9th fret has the major third, which, so I guess like one angle that I would instantly want to lean into is that beautiful sound of going between the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. And I'm just putting it into that sort of box, like just because it's an easier way maybe to conceptualize it. But I love that he's non-committal to the third, like, because then later toward the end of it was like maybe 90% through that excerpt, there was like a quarter bend on the minor third.
Oh,
which
baby,
we've
at the
talked
very
about,
end. Sorry,
we've talked about that a little bit, and I've talked about it so many times with students, that that's something more and more I'm becoming conscious of is that in between zone, in particular with the third, that has a magic to it. Could I know you played it twice already? Could you do it one more time and just like
it's great. It's fast. I think it's
it's
important that we
fast.
slow it down. That's why I didn't do too much
No, that was
time wise.
there was so much in that little bit. So like everybody, what I would like encourage you to listen for is that kind of interplay between the major and the minorness of the third. Like earlier, he has that slide up to the major third, and then later, listen for that little, whatever you want to call it, quarter bend microtonal thing that he does. It's like I think like 90% through the clip.
And that's one of the things I was going to talk about is does he even do a little bend on the third? Because there's more I want to talk about in some music in between there. And I think he probably does, and it's a lesson in itself that we'll dive into more about. Kind of it's almost like a parallel or a microcosm of that. As we advance, we learn blues stuff. Sorry, I'll take this off. Or as we advance, we maybe forget about the simple blues stuff or the simple folk stuff or whatever. But more with the technique thing. I don't want to give that away just yet. We'll get into the weeds with it. I'm gonna play it at 50% speed so we can really be like that like, and hopefully people can see it. So let's go. something to talk about. Is it a little bend there?
I don't
Well,
think so, actually. I don't
great.
think
That's
so.
see, I did it too, and I'm just gonna jump into that part of the lesson. We'll get into the licks in a second. The instinct, because we start. Oh my God, let me go through the lick. I'll just do this piece by
Yeah, show
piece.
the lick, like with your thing close.
Yeah,
Could you do
I'll
it?
change the camera. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah. Go. Is that good? We want Jerry in there. We got Jerry and Bobby in the bottom. R.I.P. There's
Yeah.
my there's my mallet percussion that I borrowed from school that I'm not practicing on today.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so and first things first. Let me write on this so we can kind of see. Let's do a magenta of some kind. So this first Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Trey Anastasio, Jimi Hendrix. I think it goes further back to Chuck Berry. You know, with Johnny B. Good type stuff, or Buddy Holly or Richie Valens. I think this lick, once those guys learn that minor pentatonic thing, that's rock and roll. I mean, that's rhythm and blues and rock and roll. One thing though, I noticed you said minor pentatonic too, and that's the first place my brain went when I looked at this lick. There is no third in there at all. We got 4 being bent, 1, 2, 1. So it's a fourth bent up to the 5th, and he does that kind of, anticipating of the 5th again. So this is really going up to the 9th fret early, and then he hits it again. That's just a great guitar lick. Right? So there's no indication of minor pentatonic. Yes, those notes are in there, but those notes are also in. And let's talk about the chords a little bit for Julius. I hear him doing like a A7 to D7, so we're already out of diatonic theory. There's no major key that has a dominant chord to a dominant chord. It's secondary dominance, or a major chord to a major chord, unless it was a 1 to a 4. Anyway, can of fish of theory. So anyway, I'm thinking of this, and I wrote it in D major to think A mixolydian as our tonal center, because it is mostly a major sounding, A major kind of sounding thing, but we have that flat 7, it's mixolydian, right? So there's no indication of major or minor third in any of this, which I was like, oh, with that lick though, it makes me think it's a minor pentatonic box, or that just main shape. But anyway, I'm just kind of confirming that there's no third in there yet. So I'm holding my horses on claiming that as minor pentatonic. And really, later we learn like, oh, there is that C sharp, like you pointed out. That is mixolydian. Oh, there's a C there too. It's a blues scale, which uses both thirds, not the minor blues scale, but it's a trick in the blues to use both thirds. Okay, so we've got this, which is a great lick, and then he does this little business. Just playing with the 1, the flat 7, and the 5. And that right there, I like how he kind of pivots back to the A from that D there. Right? And yeah, like Chris said, we've got a C going to a C sharp. And it's a quick little ghost note there, just sliding up there to give it some color. Anything you want to comment on or mention?
So far, so good. I love it. Yeah, it's yeah, that bar with the 10th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret, like that could have been like you could hang out there for even longer, and that
This
sound.
one?
Yeah, I love that. Like there's a lot of great stuff you could build off of. But no, man, keep
Yeah,
going.
right.
It's you're hitting on all the stuff that that I think is important.
No,
You
no,
know,
you're right.
it's
Like what's in there? We've got
yeah,
he could have stayed there longer and just
yeah,
made that the lick.
yeah.
But I think a couple things to notice. Look at this. I mean, it's very jazz to start on the upbeat of any beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right? He's doing that where they carry over into the next measure, starting on the and of 4, and of
Forward
4,
motion. Yeah,
carried
forward
into the
motion.
next motion, into the next measure. Um, Yeah, and dee-dee-da-doo-dee-doo-da. This is just kind of harping on the one, right? Just one, 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 which is something we've said in previous videos, like, hey, avoid the one, but also don't forget about it because, and that's kind of what I wanted to say about the blues lesson of today is that simplicity is awesome, and don't forget about those first lessons that you learn, even if they're cowboy chords, finger picking Pima stuff or whatever. Like, there's lessons, there's important lessons in there. Yeah, and then we've got us some quarter notes, eighth notes. First, I was like, "Are these 16th notes?" I was like, "No, I got to listen to Fishman's, snare drum to figure out where beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 are." And it's just a fast, 4/4. Thankfully, it was eighth notes, which is a little easier to transcribe. All right, moving forward. So that right there, this right here, we're going to go back to the video. Now, I just played, I'll slow it down too for everybody who's like, wait, can you slow down? At the end of this measure here, that's the instinct, is to go fingers 1, 3. Let's watch what Trey does. This is pretty cool, actually. We can't see him yet. Hey, dee da doo dee doo da. Oops, I was feeding back. Sorry. Here he is. That right there. Did you see what he did? Kind of pulls back, angles back that way, but he. Oh, if you can see me still, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
He. Sorry, screen share on or no? No, it's not. The joys of full screen kind of screws everything up when you're trying to trick. So he sets himself up to be in a new position. And that new position is now the BB King box. Now, that BB King box, are you familiar with that? You learn anything about that or teach that to anybody? Anybody ever ask you about that?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because the way I would think of it, it seems now you're in a position to do it kind of in a decentered zone, like the way I would normally. Let me go close up and maybe explain what I'm thinking of, and maybe I'm thinking of something different than what you're talking about. But when you're like when he slides up here, I think of that BB box as like this, based off of this kind of like F shape. I would think of, that sort of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
And it's really cool to use that against, like, so if we're in an A blues, using that based off of the fourth is kind of cool because then you can do like a really cool like bluesy kind of, like, which is perfect for this. The other thing that I think you're going to hit on that I was intrigued by was that hanging on the 9, which really builds this kind of suspense and tension. But is that what you're talking about with the BB box?
Yeah, exactly. And I have the BB box PDF open somewhere. I think I got the ability to do this. So this one's in G. Yes, and my theory brain went weird with it and said, hey, the BB King's box scale is basically Dorian with no flat 7. But let's just move past that. So if we did it here in G, and and you can add some notes to it. You can add the flat five, add in that major third like we talked about. There are some licks on that. If anybody wants the PDF, send us an email and we can get it to you. But yeah, so that's how I look at the BB King box. I usually just start from the G string. I like that you're adding the fourth string, the D string in there, to. Oh yeah, that's great harmony. You get that. Okay, so that being said, let's go back to not that, but this one. So down here. Anyway, he sets himself up. That's not like a weird, ergonomic position change or anything. The other one later that comes is kind of baffled me for a second. But that one is pretty smart because he's like, I'm ready for the BB King sound. Now, what we get out of that BB King box is the major sixth as an approach note, lower. I'll put on my camera here. So if the A is our root, he just moved there. We can approach, which is a very major sound, right? It's not the major third of the A, it's the major sixth. And a lot of times in the BB King box, we have that flat third. But what Trey does here, and this is one of the other, mini lessons in the lesson here. What are you? Here's exactly what I wanted to talk about with little mini lessons. So he goes up to the 2, right? They're the 9 or however you want to call it. He goes 1, 6, 2, 2, 1. Now, kind of what you were touching on with that third, I call it turning the key like of the ignition in a car when you're in a. It's a common thing, and it's hard not to do it when you like it so much. Same thing with like when he goes to put some spank on it, to put some vibrato, but he doesn't. He doesn't pull that.
He's just holding that
two thing, yeah, and he's like, yeah, and that to me, I was like, it kind of blew me away last night when I was listening to it. I was like, that is harder to do than you think when you've advanced into learning things like, why don't you pull that thing up a quarter step or half step to the 3, or like, give it some of the. Now, when he does resolve it to the A, he goes to the A like this. And he does give that A a little bit more too. But if I were doing that live and I happened to come up with those licks, I would have absolutely bent that up to the 3. And done too much.
Is it like we kind of lean into things more out of habit than being like, it seems like from him not doing that and showing more restraint that way, it's gives you a little glimpse into what it's like to really be coming from a place of like listening more than like out of habit. Like I agree, I would out of habit bend that minor third a little bit, or bend that ninth to a third, or to a minor or major third. Not necessarily because I'm listening or anything, but more like that's what you do there, or that kind of thing. And it's like
exactly
it's
like because you learned it. Sorry to interrupt. Because you learned it somewhere along the way that it is an awesome bluesy trick to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, why not play? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like say you work on a major scale or something, and say you work on vibrato. But there's also not clean notes, but just unaffected notes, right? But then when we get into our more, specialty blues licks from a BB King or a Stevie Ray or a Jimmy, that we hear all that, I don't know if it's the word fancy or just like professional tricks of the trade that we get stuck on, and then it becomes habit. But I think Trey's thinking like maybe ahead of like, hey, I'm gonna let that nine just sing, and it has so much power as letting it just be a nine. And it's almost like what were you saying the other video you're talking about, like when you're watching a movie and there's only 60 frames a second and you fill in the rest. Like when I was transcribing this, I was like, oh, he half step, quarter step bent it up to the third because I expected that, but the more I did it, I was like, no, he's just letting it ring. Let's listen to it again, just so people can get a sense. And let's forgive me for the playback speed. Let's go back to one. And it just falls really nicely. And there he gave it some vibrato, right? So maybe, I don't know how premeditated he was doing all of this, but it almost felt like when he went to that nine, he was like, he was way ahead of this conversation back in '98 where he's like, I don't have to bend everything. I don't have to BB King everything or blues everything or whatever. So anyway, I just thought that was a really, really cool part of this lick.
Really cool. Love that.
And again, what did you call that little technique of carrying over into the next measure, starting on a weak beat? You didn't say voice leading, but what did you call it? Was
forward motion.
Forward motion. Okay.
Yeah, like that's a concept from the book called Forward Motion by Hal Galbert, and his whole premise is that that beat one is not the beginning. We think of it as the beginning because we call it one, but it's actually the end of your phrase. And so, like, it's all about like, and you can see if you could you scroll up to the top line too? If you look at it, you'll notice that like the only time he even hits it on one is that one you're circling right there.
Yeah.
The other ones are all carried over, and it is propelling the music forward. And in fact, this is interesting. I hadn't noticed this, but if you look at it, could you show like both the top and the second line a little bit? Yeah. Okay. Good. Right there. If you look at it, the second measure on both of those lines has the strong quarter note and then a half note.
That's interesting. And he improvised this.
And he improvised it. So you like he's hearing like that's an 8-bar 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he's kind of like it seems as though he's hearing it 8 bars out. And that's one thing he talks about in that book I was just referencing is like try to hear the melody, like try to hear at least like 2 to 4 measures out. And then really, it's kind of like when you're reading, your eyes are ahead of what you're actually comprehending and processing in the moment. And as an improviser, there's a lot of value to that, not with your eyes, but with your ears being a little ahead of where you are in the present moment physically with your playing. Because otherwise, you're just kind of like, I don't know, you're just being reactionary instead of actually listening. I think that's one of the big takeaways here is that he's coming from more of a place of listening than out of habit or out of like these kind of little blues tricks or whatever. But yeah, look at how he carries those and a 4 kind of beats over, and he doesn't hit on 1 all the time. Now sometimes he does. Notice that on the 8th measure, the final kind of resolution of that, what feels like that little section. Then he does have, like that 1 and. But even that, he's like, there's a little, kind of, and he's hitting the minor third there too, which is interesting. But rhythmically,
he kind of, sorry to interrupt, he kind of finally gives it to us. And it's raunchy as hell. This really wide interval from what, F sharp up to E? Ooh.
Yeah.
So we got a minor 7th, right? Which is raunchy. And then...
That's really a classic, like
a tritone. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
What I would say right there too, like, because oftentimes there's a discussion about blending the major pentatonic or the minor pentatonic, but really, I found that like the secret sauce to me, like I spent a lot of time playing gospel guitar in churches here in Detroit, and what I found was that wasn't quite what was happening. It was more like it was like the minor pentatonic, but with the major six, which is what this is, and that's a
Right.
classic sound hitting off of the six to the five an octave up and to the minor third. Now, oftentimes that would have that little like quarter bend, but that lick right there is like I could hear that being like a horn section in a big band, like a Duke Ellington song or something
Sure.
like that,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah, in a
Um,
vacuum, it's super, super dissonant.
oh, it's awesome, man.
That's gorgeous.
It's so freaking good,
Like
man.
that.
And again, like this is something that came up in our group call yesterday. Is the
Sorry.
thing about Trey is like, yeah, we can learn this and we can learn it note for note and play it and stuff. With a bunch of practice, it's really fast. But the fact that he's composing these concepts on the fly in his improv is the thing that's so inspiring. Last week I did this AC/DC bag from 95 Deer Creek, and we were talking about the same kind of thing. It's also an A bluesy kind of thing at times, and some of the licks may seem familiar, but then you're like, how is he doing this in the moment? Like that's the coolest part is how fast his mind is, or his ears. Really, that's. I mean, it is his mind too. He's clearly extremely intelligent, but it's like he's hearing so fast and so far ahead.
I'm
Um,
curious
yeah.
if he this was premeditated or it was just like
No. Well,
his recent memory knew like that he did that quarter half note, and then in the equal measure of the next four bars, he did the same thing on different notes.
well, it's a
Like,
version of what we talked about. I'm losing track because we've done a handful of episodes now, but we were talking about musical questions and answers, and
right.
so it really reminds me of that concept. Even though it's not following it to a T, it is a form of like having sort of an A motif and then a B and then an A and a B. And even though it's not note for note the same kind of thing, there are a lot of similarities rhythmically, and even if it varies for the most part, if you have a little section in the middle that has something familiar, it goes a long way. It goes a long way to making it feel cohesive and like a coherent thought. Just by doing the quarter note, the half note twice, like
Well,
he
I'm
did.
gonna ask you to get into Trey's head. Do you think he premeditated that rhythm, or it just happened?
No,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
I
Yeah, yeah.
don't think so at all.
Okay.
No, I think that he's
Yeah.
just that good at phrasing.
That's so cool, man.
That to
Because
us, it's like
it
it looks like it.
look at that symmetry. It's like
It's
that
unreal.
looks like somebody was just like, I'm going to make an even thing. And people have done that, like, with retrograde and 12 tone music or whatever. Be like, it's going to be the exact thing forwards as it is backwards, and like, but that's
Yeah.
clearly an improvisation, just a
No,
blues.
I think he's just that special, man, as we know.
All right. Anything else on this? Well, I guess we should. We talked a little bit about this. Let's talk about. We talked about how he moved up here with the same finger. Well, sorry, that's wrong. It was actually here, I think. That's not it either. It's this one. um, Setting himself up for the little BB King box here. Um, we talked about that nine just staying very plain, and it kind of delivers in a different way than we expect in a kind of bluesy setting. We talked about that, and then he gets to this wacky stuff. And the fingering coming up after this is what I wanted to talk about, and then we can move on to the next leg. And we can see in the video, it's hard to see in the video, but I figured it out. This right here, this 10, 11, I'll go from the 11, 12, 11. Let me zoom into. He goes, let's see if this. That's the expected, right? 10, 11, 10 with your first finger. But in the video, he goes, he switches to the third finger, which seems like a really unconventional move. I think he was just like, I'm trying to get down here, and it wasn't again premeditated, but it was like him just like moving. It might have been a flub or something, but like let's look at it on the video because it took me a minute to be like, oh, that is not what I would do or whatever. Um, that right there. It's fast, but I promise you, he goes. So 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I just thought that was cool to be like he's setting himself up, moving downward. So to move down in position, like sometimes it's best to put your third finger in there. So there, I did that bend on that minor third. But anyway, any thoughts on that kind of weird business of changing fingers there?
Yeah, I think that the thing that jumps out is that he's doing that without, like, typically there would be like a slide move. You know, you would like slide using your ring finger, maybe on like the um when you're up there, maybe on like 13th fret, and you would slide down or something. But the thing that's kind of striking about that is he does not do that. He just goes right to it.
Right.
And it's kind of cool. Like, that's again how fast he's kind of hearing and moving. Whereas, like, no, I got to get down here. I gotta
Right.
like there's
That's
something I
exactly
got to
it.
get down to over here, and it kind of just again shows like he's ahead of himself in a way.
Words.
His mind and his ears are ahead of where his fingers are, and he knows he needs to get back down for whatever that next thing he was going to
And,
do.
and we can only you know guess in the mind of this man from 25 years ago, or however, 27 years ago, 17 years ago. Um, like if he had his druthers, if he could do it again, finger wise, or if he was on this podcast and he wanted to explain it, he might do it again differently, like, and maybe not do that. Anyway, I don't know. I can't speak
Well,
for him.
actually, okay, like let me tie into a little bit of piano stuff because there is a crossover.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That's a common thing on piano where, like, to do a position shift like that, you have a note that's repeating, and you would play it. In that case, he played it with in piano that would be your second finger, but let's call it first finger, and then that's a pretty common move where you hit it with the one finger, and then you're going to do it again, but you switch fingers.
Right.
Now I have, like, I don't know if that's coming out from his piano playing. I know he would write a lot on piano and stuff like that, but it's one of those cool things where you can get some cross pollination if you think of it in terms of a piano player. To them, that would not be unusual at all to do that sort
Right.
of thing. Because I can't really show it right now, but in fact, you know what, I can you won't hear anything, but let me switch my cam. I got like a little keyboard here.
Oh, nice.
So if you were, like if you were going, if you wanted to get up a little higher and you hit an E, maybe you would switch there and go
Right.
back,
Yep.
like that. So it kind of reminds me of that sort of move. Let me switch out of that because I'm not a very good camera guy. But yeah, that's what I thought of, was like, oh, that's like a little piano shenanigans.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That it was just somewhat unconventional for guitar. We usually, when we move downward, it's with that first finger because first finger determines position on guitar, right? So, and there would have been nothing wrong with that, and I think that was the expected. But yeah, maybe he is pianoing on there.
I
Anyway,
don't know. It's cool though. It's unusual. It's cool.
yeah, I thought that was fun to do that. Yeah, so that where was that other one? That this one, the 8 to 10 with the first finger, that was pretty conventional to be moving upward. But yeah, all right, let's move to the next lick. Anything else you want to say about that? Obviously, he might have been an eighth of a turn of, but I don't think so. It sounded like
Sounded pretty straight up when I heard it back. I think it was like sort of wishful hearing or whatever when I
Yeah.
first heard it, but it sounded pretty straight up just a minor third, which was really cool and unexpected, especially like because on a dominant chord, it's that beautiful gray area between minor and major, and he was like sounded fully committed to the minor third. So I thought that was really striking. That was
And
cool.
it's kind of similar to when we had the 9 where he didn't put a bunch of technique on it like vibrato or bend. Um and it happened so fast, and even when I put it to 50 or 75, I was like, I'm not really hearing a bend. So if that is true, um that it's cool that it's a lesson in itself to us to be like, you don't always have to bend stuff. You don't always have to put vibrato on it. Like let plain, I hate to call them plain notes because that sounds boring, but it's like let unaffected notes sing out, and they have a lot of power too. Um, but anyway, all right, let's move on. There's a little bit of connection in between that lick and this next lick because it is very much the next lick. That was it. So, what this, please? All right, so I'm gonna there's like a couple of like a measure or two where he plays some stuff, but I'm just gonna start right here where he goes, um, and we have what a pre-bend here, which he's just notorious for doing. Now this is the kind of the meat of what I wanted to get into in the blues world. Boo da da doo. Cool little triangle there, a diagonal there. Which we've learned a lot, or people learn a lot when they're focusing on a turnaround, right? When you have this kind of lick, say it's an E, right? And you can do that in any. He does it up here. You're on the 5th and the flat 7. And you can just stay there, and it's a really raunchy kind of blues sound. So he's doing that here. One, two, and let's listen to it again because I need to get it in my ear. Come on. So, and what he did there. That right there. He's just moving down chromatically, right? Can we see it? 9, 8, then this 8, 7, 8, and it's just kind of temporary. He doesn't stay on it. So he goes. And then that C natural, it's kind of hard to hear. Almost like maybe he flubs it. Hate to say the man flubs. He does flub. We all flub. It's okay to flub, but it's just maybe like, didn't like ring out on the recording very well. That C up there. But anyway. And then he's kind of anchoring with the perfect 5th E, as opposed to going 10, 8, 10, 8 with the 1 and flat 7. He's just going down to that 5th there. Anyway, that blues lick right there is just, to me, so. You hear it in the end of every time they turn around. Jesus just left Chicago, right? Like that's in the end of that every single time, that iconic kind of blues turnaround thing. What else does he do here? Or anything jumping out at you here? Or you wanna
Yeah. If you could unshare that for a sec, I wanted to hit on
absolutely.
something right there. Like one way you could, this is, to be clear, this is not what I think Trey was doing here, but I can't help myself because it's such a fun little thing to
So
explore.
curious.
When you're in that zone, like Colin was just doing, and then if you move down here, that basically it was like that, like you said, that classic bluesy thing, and then here, one fun thing to think about is like, okay, those two notes, think of it like what's a chord that could have that, or chords plural that could have that. And so one thing I like to explore and play around with is using that is if I just put my ring finger here, or in a minute I'll, like you said, there was that C on top. Like if you do that, you can turn that into like a B7, and then you're back to your A. So you got your A kind of. So it's like a little B7, and you can turn it into a flat 9, so you get a little diminished.
Yeah.
And then another thing that you hit on earlier that's so cool that Trey does a lot of times is he'll hit the root and then kind of that classic bluesy thing where you hit the root, the fourth, and then like the third. So that's what occurred to me there is like, if you hear those two tones, like what are some chords you could create from that? Like what, like instead of thinking of a scale or anything, it's like, oh yeah, that's in a,
Yeah.
that could be in like a C diminished. It could be a B7. It could be a B7 flat 9. And it adds some
See?
serious funky, grimy color. You can do little funky color in there.
And like you said, he goes up to the C at the end of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it the C or the C sharp? I think it's the C.
I think it was a C. Yeah. So like you have, that's such a great.
So I think of that one as, I mean, that looks like that, your D7 shape or whatever. So that would be what A flat dominant 7. Especially if you put your first finger down on the A flat. You seeing that?
Yeah, totally. So like here's a fun little rabbit hole since you just said that. This is a Barry Harris concept where there's a family of chords. So the one I
Oh,
was
right,
just
yeah.
referencing was
Drop
like a
one, up
B7.
one. Yep.
Well, no, like when you have, well, oh, I think I know what you're saying there, but no, like when you have a B7, there's a family of chords that are in the diminished family. So there's only 3 of those families. You have the F, to A flat, to B, to D. So you can choose, like you were seeing the 8 flatness of that, so to speak. Like here would be your root,
Yeah.
whereas I was seeing the B part of that. But you could also see it as like a D7 flat 9. And then the other one you could see it as is an F7 flat 9, which would be right.
Right.
So for every dominant chord, you can have 3 other dominant chords that can branch out from there. It kind of reminds me of
And four diminished too, right?
Yeah, because
Minor
they're
sixes.
they're kind of in each other's DNA. So it kind of reminds me of that legendary book that Trey apparently was studying, the tonal convergence.
Dunbar.
Yes, yeah.
Ted Dunbar. Yeah.
And so and I actually have a physical copy of that book somewhere. Somebody sent it to me. He was like, I can't read sheet music. Can you help me with this?
I remember you saying this.
So what it's saying is like, if you have a spot you're trying to land on, there are multiple different paths you can take to get there. And anyway, that was the rabbit hole I went into when I heard that.
Nice.
Like, if you're thinking in terms of the A-ness of the situation, that E flat is sitting there, but you can also think of it as a D sharp in a B major chord, or the flat 9 of a D chord, or whatever. Like it could have the minor third of an F. It could have so many not the minor third of an F, the flat 7 of an F. So it can have so many different little tangents you can go on.
And the point, I think, being here for if anybody's like, whoa, theory Barry Harris, where are we going? And if it's over anybody's head, I think the point here, other than the beautiful theory of it, is that you could play those arpeggios to come up with sick licks
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that are outside of your traditional, pentatonic or whatever. That is beautiful, man. Thank you so much for going into that. I had not gotten that far with it. It was more just like
And really, that's just
the
that's a
blues lick.
random rabbit
Yeah.
hole. That is not what I think. I think it's just as simple as moving it down, like you said. We were having a conversation last night on my group call that went into some of that stuff, so it's just fresh on my mind.
Nice. I mean, it's gorgeous theory though, that Barry stuff, man.
Yeah, it's
Especially
fun.
that move one up one for the minor sixes or the or half diminished chord is a minor six chord,
Yeah.
and then diminished chord down one. Is that right? Yeah, move
Yeah.
each chord down, and you get those different drop shapes. Oh, it's so cool. All right, so one more, and then well, just at the end of this, it's just kind of more of the same. He's just like he's ready to be done with, and he's saying one, 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 one,
And it
basically
kind of
type
reminds me of the
stuff.
vocal line. Don't da 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 when to sleep and da 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 da. It kind of reminds me of some of that like with the
Nice
background
catch.
singers.
So I got nothing more on a PDF, but yeah, really nice catch there. Just kind of hammering home at the one at the end of this phrasing. There's one thing, and I think this is a great thing to end on, because I'm hearing, not Trey, but I'm hearing Jimi Hendrix
Oh yeah.
on this one thing that he does. And sorry, some of that other stuff we just heard in there was more of the same of some of the other things, so not much too new material, just different rhythms likely. There's that nine again. Come. That bend right there. It is so magic. It's very dissonant Jimi Hendrix bend. The physics of it is what we're about to talk about. How do you get that? And I figured out what it is, or at least what the notes are. He's bending on the B string, that D, up to an E, for kind of a basic, minor pentatonic blues thing. But you can hear it, and I slowed it way down. He somehow grabs the G string. And it's I know every guitar player who's gotten into bends has had that thing where you're really ripping at a show and something amazing happens, like Jimmy could do, like on the fly, like where you happen to grab another string in mid bend and you get harmony. And the harmony was like a B flat kind of over on the G string. And it took me an hour. I was like, how do you replicate this? I was trying things like, I couldn't get it. Starting to get it. You hear it where it's the B or the B flat is in there. I did this thing last night for 20 minutes. I was like, did he premeditate this where he like put this finger down on the G string to make it more accessible to grab and then pick it again? But if you watch, he only picks once and he happens to grab it. It's just one of those weird, like a slip. You know what I mean? Like it slips to. And I got it this morning. There it is. Where it just happens to grab. It's hard to teach that, man, because it's just you got to go a million times until. See, I missed it because my finger was too underneath the string.
There it is.
And it's just mean as hell, that sound.
It gives you this oscillating wobble when you grab that extra string. I love that. Here's
Who needs an effects board, man? Like, yeah, it's
no, that's all you need. Here's a random like version of that from Joe Walsh. I think did this in Hotel California, where there's this lick. It's a C major. Or no, that's D major. So I'll do it there. So it's like he's coming from like a D major, like a D major pentatonic thing, but he goes it's like a version of that.
That was like a pre-bend, and then he came down, huh?
Yeah, and then he like switches strings and gets some of that wobble you're talking.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's good. It's sounds like a cry, man. It's so
It does. It
that's
does. Like it
gorgeous,
hits
man.
that wobble.
And him, I think it's trickier to do it on the way up because then you, I think it's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's accidental. I think it was accidental that it happened to him. Let's listen to it and watch him do it again. And we're gonna slow it down just because I was doing this at 50 last night. I was like, how? What? It's just an accident. And once you get it, the accident happened. You're like, oh, well, that's never happening again. Like it's or possibly. Did I pass it? I think I passed it. It's coming. The camera will go back to him. There he is. Next. Stopping the video just for a second. You can see, I can't really zoom in too much because it does the reverse when you try to zoom in on YouTube. Actually, I think I can do this. I can do that. Kind of zoom in a little bit. Anyway.
We can see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's grabbing
yeah.
that string. That's so awesome.
But anyway, that reminds me so much of Jimi Hendrix, Band of Gypsies, Machine Gun, Who Knows? Just that raunchy, like, oh man. And I think you got to be really, really warmed up and really just like shredding, like get a good amount of warm up beforehand to get that kind of happy accident to happen. That's the way I look at it. Anyway, I just want to share that
So
it's
cool.
it's not everything is and people know this obviously, but it's not all premeditated. It's not all transcribing that'll get you in the door. Sometimes these things just happen, and it's like whoa, and it's like it's otherworldly. It just sounds so psychedelic, and it sounds so wrong and bad in a way that we like it. It's like good dissonance or whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's the blues. Yeah, man.
um, the WTF band. That's what I want
I
to
didn't
call
see
that one.
that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
love that.
Anyway, that's probably a good note to end on. A little longer than I was thinking it was going to be. Sorry about that, but
But
anyway,
that's
yeah.
how it goes though. Like you can take that first 8 measure section you looked at, there's like it's a treasure trove of gems and things you can grab. So I think it was worth it. And man, good call on the Julius Star Lake. That was fun. Very good call.
So um, anything else blues wise? You wanna
No, everybody
cap
go
off with?
watch that full version. It's very good. It's super high energies you can hear there, but it's worth like that whole DVD is worth check it out. It's really really good. No, this was excellent. It was a good point. Like bring it to the blues, and there's so much you can do with it. Loved the points about letting a note just kind of be its natural. It is really a lot of the discussion was about intonation, just being conscious of things and not doing things just out of habit. So like really good points and just fun licks to steal from Trey as always. So no, good
A
stuff.
couple of things I wrote down before I did this, like of why to do these blues licks over like this is kind of a gospel type of change and feel, but these blues licks are applicable in almost every situation in kind of the rock jam band world. So it's important that you do you know go back or don't forget about your blues, right? Like maybe some of us are guilty of because they're so invaluable. And the reason why they work is because it's the familiar for the audience. It's something for the audience to latch onto, and they hear that stuff. And say you're doing something more jazzy or something more dissonant, and then you come back to the blues. It's you get this real sense of wow, that dude sounds professional. Like even though it's a blues, like you're almost kind of tricking people back to like the beginning of your first blues licks that you learned. And then yeah, we talked about the switching fingers, the intonation, and the crazy bend. Okay, that's it. But,
Right on, man.
well,
Great
yeah,
session, great call. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. If you're still with us, really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave some comments on what you want to see us cover, or what you want to hear. If there's a lick, if there's a part of a or a concept, let us know. We want to talk about stuff you guys want to hear too, not just our crazy rants about WTF bends and whatnot. But we sure appreciate you hanging with us. And yeah, man, good call.
yeah. There's a lot of fish out there, and there's a lot of fish that I'm sure we both haven't heard too, because there's thousands and thousands of hours of shows. So hit us up with your deep cuts or your familiar cuts, whatever. We're game. And thanks so much for watching.
See you soon.